Newton's first law states for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. If Newton was alive today, he would also come up with something like, for every Realme device out there, there's a similarly priced and comparable Xiaomi device, or vice versa. Realme just launched the Realme X7 and made sure it undercuts the Mi 10i by 1000 rupees, thereby taking the crown for the cheapest 5G phone available today. Of course, speed is much more than just 5G. The Mi 10i looks slightly stronger on paper with UFS 2.2 on its higher end variant, which is what we have here, versus UFS 2.1 on the X7. The Mi 10i also has a slightly faster CPU and Wi-Fi 6 versus 5. Yeah, we'll be testing Wi-Fi speeds too. This is a technology doc style speed test, so as usual, we compare everything from app opening times to RAM management to internet speed test and so on. Let's get started after you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. Before we begin, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Glazed Ink. I keep telling you guys over and over again, Glazed Ink makes amazingly durable tempered glasses for a lot of phones, including the Realme X7, Mi 10i and so on. What's special about Glazed Ink is, apart from a full glue edge-to-edge glass, they also provide a real curved tempered glass with actual 2.5D glass near the edges, which essentially eliminates the awkward gap on the sides which you get from installing most other tempered glasses in the market. So do check out Glazed Ink, link in the description. Technology Jock subscribers can use the promo code TJOCK to get 10% discount. Now on to the speed test. Note that we are gonna be doing this speed test with default settings. As you can see, on the X7, both the power saving modes are disabled by default, and that's the case with the Mi 10i as well. And then there's an individual app battery saver on both phones. On the X7, the default is allow foreground activity. On the Mi 10i, it's called the battery saver setting. So yeah, there is some sort of app battery optimization enabled on both phones. Most of the users, probably 95% of us, will not change any of these. That's the reason I'm sticking to these settings. In case the phones behave weirdly, we'll redo the test with improved performance settings, don't worry. Also, do note that both phones run on the latest software version. They have the same list of installed apps, they are connected to the same Wi-Fi, and there are no apps running in the background. Let's first check the app opening times. Twitter, the X7 was a bit faster. Okay, I'm just noticing that these are two different accounts, so the feed content is totally different, don't mind that. The scrolling performance though is absolutely fine on both, as in there is no lag. Of course, the scrolling feels smoother on the Mi 10i because of the 120Hz refresh rate display compared to the X7's 60Hz. The Mi 10i loaded Instagram much slower, a solid difference of 1 to 2 seconds. The scrolling performance is equally good though. Telegram, equally fast. By the way, join our Telegram channel for some interesting stuff, behind the scenes, mini giveaways, etc. Link in the description. Next up, Google Maps. The X7 loaded all the content slightly faster. Let me open something. The Mi 10i was quicker here. Swiggy, more or less similar. Google Drive, the X7 loaded it first, but that's a negligible difference. Spotify, X7 opens it first. The reason I'm opening something inside every app is to come back later and check whether the app displays the same page or reloads it from scratch. Opening a movie on Prime Video. Next up, we'll open a bunch of games. I'm expecting a noticeable difference here. Okay, the X7 opened it first, but the Mi 10i was right behind. Among Us is a very light game, and as expected, the loading times are similar. Subway Surfers. The X7 loaded it much quicker. Let me start the game so we can come back later and check whether we can resume it from where we left. Next up, Call of Duty Mobile. Note that there is a 2-second delay to select the account, so if you consider that, the loading times are almost equal. Now on to the last row of apps: phone, messages, nothing much to talk about. Camera seems to have loaded quicker on the X7. Let's take a selfie. Google Chrome. This amazing web page loaded at the same time on both phones. Cool. So most of the apps were opened slightly faster by the X7. Now to check the background app management, we'll open everything again and see whether they reload from scratch or open to the same page we left from. Here, the X7 correctly shows the selfie camera, but on the Mi 10i, you will have to switch to selfie mode again. No issues with Chrome, phone, and messages. Call of Duty Mobile reloads on the Mi 10i. Same is the case with Subway Surfers. You can just continue playing the game on the X7, you cannot do that on the Mi 10i. Among Us reloads on both phones. Genshin Impact actually loads from the middle on the Mi 10i. I don't know what's happening. The X7 reloads it from scratch though. Prime Video. Both phones take a bit of time, but they can resume from the same page we saw earlier. This is a pattern now. Other apps also take a bit of time. If you saw our earlier speed test between the M51 and the Mi 10i, you would know that the M51 opens everything instantly. It doesn't even take a second to display the content. Unfortunately, these are not that swift. And Instagram actually reloads from scratch. Twitter too. So, quite evidently in both the rounds, the X7 held an edge over the Mi 10i. The app opening times were mostly very similar, but in the RAM management round, the Mi 10i failed to reload all 4 games, which is pathetic. So let's now move on to the internet speed test. Pressing go at the exact same time, the Mi 10i is noticeably faster here. Let's now do the test one after the other. That's a huge difference. The Mi 10i is almost twice as fast when it comes to download speeds, and upload speeds are almost 3 times better. This is thanks to Wi-Fi 6 on the Mi 10i. No idea why Realme X7 uses Wi-Fi version 5. I think it's a limitation of the Dimensity 800U chipset. Anyway, to test the potential of the chip, video rendering test is a must. I'm using Viva video editor to get it done. I'm opening the exact same video file on both phones, slowing them down by about 50%, and we'll render the videos in 480p resolution. No, I'm not buying the paid version to render at 1080p. Like I said, this is one of the major tests for the chips underneath. Snapdragon 750G on the Mi 10i and MediaTek's Dimensity 800U on the X7. On paper, the Dimensity 800U is better at multi-core performance, the 750G is better at overall CPU performance, and going by benchmarks, that's what I mean by on paper. And in this particular scenario, quite evidently, on paper specs match the real world performance. They're almost equally fast or equally slow. You'll know what I'm talking about in the next speed test video. Let's also do a fingerprint scanner speed test. The X7 uses an in-display fingerprint scanner, while the Mi 10i uses a side-mounted capacitive scanner. Obviously, the X7 involves an additional step of pressing the power button before being able to use the fingerprint scanner to unlock the phone. Whereas with the Mi 10i, all you need to do is place your finger on the power button. That's it. It's faster overall. But do keep in mind, with the raise to wake functionality enabled, once you raise the phone, the fingerprint icon appears on the X7 and you can directly place your finger on it and unlock the phone. In which case, it's as fast as the Mi 10i. Raise to wake may not work in all situations, so do keep that in mind. I'll give this one to the Mi 10i. We are almost done with the video. Let's quickly reboot the phones. Fast forwarding again. the Mi 10i won. It's significantly faster. So overall, this is how things panned out. Not very conclusive. In fact, to be honest, I'm not too happy about the performance of both the phones. The Mi 10i performed poorly in the previous few speed tests, and there has been no real improvement so far. A couple of things to note: the X7's RAM management is much better, it doesn't kill the background apps unnecessarily, and on the other hand, the Mi 10i's Wi-Fi performance is significantly better. Although in real world usage, it may not make that much of a difference. If I have to choose an overall winner, if you give more weightage to app opening times and background app management, then it's the Realme X7. So that's it, guys. There is a three-way camera comparison between Realme X7, Mi 10i and the Galaxy M51. So subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will get notified when we publish that video. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsor Glazed Ink, link in the description. That's it. Thanks for watching. This is Ashwin Sundar and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Alright.